It's a profound human question that we ask over and over. Does it matter that I'm here? How can I make a difference? How can I create impact in the world?
When I decided to leave my 20-year radio career and start the next stage, I also went directly to my friend Kevin Ciccotti. I needed to understand my emotions and how I was going to create my next stage. Kevin Ciccotti is a leadership coach, he is a keynote speaker, and he is the creator and founder of the Human Factor Formula. He's also my friend. Today, I had an opportunity to join Kevin as he gave one of his keynote speeches at Whitney Peak. Let's go check it out.
We live in a world of what's in it for me. You ever been there? I've been there. I've lived there. I've spent a lot of time there. Thankfully, I've moved on to how can I contribute, right? That's the question we all want to ask. That's the question that everybody in this room has been asking. That's why you signed up. How can I contribute? How can I make a difference? We're wired to be selfish. We're wired to be self-centered. That's how we protect ourselves. And only through an expansion of our consciousness, our awareness, our understanding of other human beings do we start to step out of that. That's the mainstream of humanity that we see today. What's in it for me? When you start to ask, how can I contribute? Let me tell you something. That's the most selfish thing you can do. You know why? Because contribution changes you. I'm going to leave you with this thought. One of my favorite quotes from a woman named Margaret Mead. And she said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time tonight. I appreciate you all.
Later, I decided to sit down with Kevin over a glass of wine and a gorgeous view to learn a little bit more about the Human Factor Formula and the human operating system. Intimate moments are something that we miss out on now in our fast-paced world.
Oh, completely. And we miss out on it because we're not present anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're addicted to our smartphones,
right,
and our computers and all the different, sensory overload that we have in our lives. And it's like I just wrote a blog about embracing the silence and about why don't we just shut off. I did that recently. I spent a couple of days with my son. I shut off my phone and I just went off the grid, and it was glorious. It was so incredible because I reconnected not only with my kid, I reconnected with myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's just this constant sensory input, and it's overload for us. Mm-hmm. Our brains are suffering because of it.
Oh, totally. I totally agree with you on that. We talk about tuning out or turning off.
Mm-hmm.
And if you listen to a lot of, I'm a big podcast. I love to listen to podcasts.
Sure.
And more very successful leaders, whether it be business, economics, health and fitness, have talked about the importance of disconnecting and how if you don't do that, you really cannot be an effective leader. Do you believe that?
Oh, I agree. And it's funny because the irony of that is we're talking about silence. I mean, do you get that?
Right.
It's like, but we're always trying to fill that void. People are so uncomfortable with silence. And I think silence that's where we go to rejuvenate, recharge, and get clarity. The school of silence, I call it. And when I'm coaching a client, I'll ask a question, and think about conversations that you've had with friends where it's on a different level than coaching, but you ask a question, and if there's silence, you start to talk more, and you give context to the question as though that's going to help them think through to their answer. I just let it sit. I drop a question in, and I just sit, and I let them ponder, and I love the silence. Because in the silence, we both gain clarity. When we give ourselves that gift of silence, we tune into something that's deeper inside of us that we don't always get to connect with. And when we talk about human connection, I mean, you and I have been friends for a long time, and we have these most amazing conversations, and we really connect. But the person I need to connect with most is myself. And that was something that I didn't even understand before I started doing this work.
So Kevin, you're working with corporations, you're working with individuals. Is there always an aha moment for someone? And if there is, what is that like for them? And how are they able to grow from that experience?
I'd like to say every client that there is at least one aha moment. There's usually multiple ones. And some of them are small ahas and some of them are huge. One of the things that for me that I've gotten really good at is helping them step into a higher level of leadership and really getting the most out of themselves. And the only way to do that is to push against your edges. You know, like when you started this, how uncomfortable was this to start doing this work?
It was a challenge.
Right?
It was.
So for me, stepping into coaching, it was something I had always dreamed of, but I never really believed it was possible. And at some moment, my confidence, well, it wasn't even confidence, it was my desire and my drive outgrew my fear. And so I help clients get to that moment of clarity that they realize that the only thing that's ever held them back is them. Because we look at, you know, when problems arise, when situations fail, when things go bad, we look to blame. We blame the circumstances, we blame other people, we blame ourselves. And instead of looking at blame, it's like, where's the clarity? Where's the lesson in this? And when things go wrong, it's like, okay, how can I make something great out of this? I have failed so many times at so many different things in this work that it's made me a better coach, it's made me a better speaker, it's made me a better trainer, it's made me better in every area of my life because I have failed and I'm not afraid of it. And I used to be terrified as a perfectionist. And so I help people find that moment of clarity where they go, oh, yeah, I can see how this pattern, let's say perfectionism, has been keeping me from actually doing the thing that I most want to do. Because the fear says, what if I fail?
You and I have talked a lot about this too.
But the passion says, what if I succeed?
The negative talk was something that I had commented to you about, that I had this negative talk, and it was really about me figuring out a way to what happens when recognizing the negative talk, and then how do I talk myself out of that negative talk? And it's work. It's work in the beginning, and then when you figure it out, it like becomes less and less.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like,
but then, and here's the thing, like, you know this to be true, but some of my clients still struggle with this. We overcome a negative self-talk in a situation, and then the next week they'll go, yeah, but it came back. I'm like, yeah, of course it did, because it doesn't go away.
Yes, yeah.
You know, human nature, you know, the human brain, the way we're wired for survival. That's our primary directive. And so in order to survive, we have to be looking for danger, right? Well, if we're always on the lookout for danger, what are we seeing? Danger. We're seeing all these negative things. So we're looking for what's wrong. But what I tell them is, you know, what's wrong is always available. So is what's right. So what are you looking for? All that stuff is still there. We're still going to have those moments that trigger us. We're still going to get upset. We're still going to have fear. We're still going to have anxiety, worry, stress, all those things. So what? Keep going. Do it anyway. And like, that's how we grow through it. And every time we take another step that's outside of our comfort zone, we experience all those things again. We keep doing it, and then our comfort zone expands, and we keep doing it. I mean, my comfort zone, I do things all the time that scare me. I take on jobs that scare me because it makes me better. It keeps me focused, it keeps me on my toes, and it helps me to grow as a coach and as a leader.
I think we have been kind of trained to avoid fear when really fear is something that can push us forward. With that being said, you do both. You work one-on-one as a leadership coach, and then you go out and you work with large corporations and business leadership and help build that. Yeah. What is more passionate for you, or is that hard? And also, how are you able to still express that message that you're giving to the leadership coach person that you may be working one-on-one, because you still want that organization or that company to walk away with a strong lesson? Yeah.
So, you know, trying to decide what I like better, speaking on stage or one-on-one coaching, is like trying to pick my favorite child. And I have 3 kids, and they're probably all waiting with bated breath. Who does he like most? I'm not going to say. But I love them. I love them both. So being on stage, there's that thrill of instant gratification. if you tell a joke and it lands and people laugh, it's like, oh, I'm so glad that worked. But when you get a message that just hits people right in the gut and you feel that reaction in the room, like that kind of feedback, I love that. And I'm so alive on stage. And that said, working one-on-one with a client, because you've experienced that, in that quiet moment when I ask a question that just blows their mind, and they go to a place that they've never even imagined going to before in terms of their perspective, their thoughts, their image of themselves. I can't even tell you how amazing that feels. The first one is about me being on stage. It's about delivering value, but like I get that instant gratification. The second one is about them. And there's something so amazing about helping a person break through a barrier that they thought was insurmountable and going, oh my God, I have it. I have the answer. And to just, it's like, I mean, I get emotional thinking about it. Who am I to be able to do this work? I'm so blessed.
I think though that what you give, Kevin, is this, whenever I walk away from you, I have an ability to see the future, and I have the ability to see my abilities, which I didn't always feel that way. There was a lot of insecurities, and I think you have given me this toolbox full of things to regroup on when I start to see what my triggers are. That's the other thing I think I've learned from you, is what those triggers are. I think you can learn that on a level to build a relationship better. You can learn that on a level to be a leader better.
Right.
When you start recognizing those, and when you stop compartmentalizing. I think for me, I used to compartmentalize or think that I'm working and this is work, and I'm home and I'm home, and and that's not true. Like, all aspects of who I am come into everything that I do.
Right.
Just as if I'm at work and I treat someone a certain way, I may treat my kid that way too. Like, we all have those moments, and I think it's just, that's what a leadership coach, and that's what you have given me, and I see what you bring to the table for the businesses that work with you, is that ability to really, to take that growth or those abilities to the next stage. And that is what makes us all better, is to just, I think we're all, if you stop learning, we stop growing.
Yeah.
So this is what it's all about. You're just learning what you're good at. You're learning to deal with things that you know that send you into a tailspin.
Right.
Having the toolbox to know what to do, it's just like, hey, I have a plunger when the toilet's plunged. I know what to do.
Yeah.
So now when a stressful situation arises at work where I have a deadline or a very difficult client, being able to reach into that toolbox and pull out some of those things and say, I can handle it this way.
My clients are funny. They'll say to me all the time, they'll go, I was in the middle of a difficult situation and I heard your voice in my head. And I just laughed. I go, wow, that must have been terrifying. And they go, no, it actually helped me.
It does. It's the like, guiding voice. You're just guiding.
Here's the deal, Connie. Change is inevitable. Growth is optional. Change is happening whether we like it or not. I can either go with it and learn from it and grow from it, or I can do my best to stay stagnant and die. And I choose the former. I want to grow, but growth is painful too, because we have to shed this image of who we are. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how different a person I am from the man I was, 12 years ago, even 5 years ago, but 12 years ago, before I started this business, I was a very different man. And I'm not even sure that you would be my friend. I don't know. I mean, I have friends who have been my friends for a long time. They say, no, you were always a good person. But I wasn't the leader that I am today. And I was so afraid of failure that I rarely stepped out of my little box. And now I'm like, let's go. Leap in the net will appear. Isn't that what I said to you?
Yes, it is,
Leap in the
every
net will
time.
appear.
And it's so true. Yeah. And I just think that in business, in life, to know that we can grow and we can change, it is scary and it is difficult. But to know that you have these tools, that you're helping people. You're not giving them the tools. I want to make that clear. I never felt like you gave me something. Right. You helped me discover the powers within me, the things that I needed to change within me, how I responded to things, and how to change that response. That's what was allowed me to make the changes in my life.
It's always a choice. And see, that's that was the most difficult thing for me to like wrap my head around when I started my training and then doing this work, was everything we do is a choice. And I used to tell myself, well, I don't have a choice. This is what I must do because this is how I behave, and it's what I've always done. But even that was a choice. So, you know, we can choose to suffer or we can choose to thrive. And we get attached to those, you know. I mean, I was attached to my story of suffering for a long time and victimization, and it's like, no, that's not who I am. And people get attached. We ask ourselves, who am I if I don't have these problems? You know, because it becomes part of our story. But that's not who I am, any more than the clothes I wear define me.
Yeah.
You know, that's just a story. And we have to deconstruct the story to get to what's underneath that story. And that's where truth is. And that, at the end of the day, if I had to distill it down, I help people get to the truth of who they really are. And I know that sounds melodramatic, hyperbolic, whatever you want, but when people see the truth, discover the truth of who they really are, they can't unknow that. They can't unknow that. And then they have to make a different choice.
It's a truth. If you're like me and you're ready to take things to the next stage, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to have someone guide you. Kevin Ciccotti is guiding me to the next stage, and I believe that through his human factor formula, he will allow you to reach your goals and your dreams so that you too can take your passions to the next stage.